It's Wednesday, February 26th.
This is an existential moment. My campaign is built around that.
From coast to coast to coast, you've told me that you're anxious in the face of an uncertain future.
Talking Trump, the U.S. president, and his threats against Canada once again dominating the second and final Liberal leadership debate.
It is a surprising comment considering the contribution of Canada to the Five Eyes Alliance.
A U.S. senior advisor denies a report that he wants to remove Canada from the Five Eyes Alliance.
That's like statistically impossible.
What is happening? A car falls off the Gardiner Expressway during rush hour. Police have now laid impaired driving charges.
I'm not a great flyer at the best of times, but when my husband turned around and said, move, we've got to move, I was really shocked.
A shocking decision. An Australian couple is speaking out after a Qatar Airways flight crew placed a woman's dead body next to them on a long-haul flight. Stay with us, Canada. Your morning starts right now. Welcome to your morning, everybody. I'm Riza Wade today. I'm Lindsey Deluce.
And thus I'm here. I'm Teddy Wilson. Hope you're having a good day so far.
Yeah, great to have you on, Kelsey McEwen. Happy Wednesday.
That is a wild headline.
It is. Yeah, we're going to have a bit more about that in news, but it is pretty wild and shocking indeed. And let's turn to some of the top headlines we're following for you this morning. We'll begin with the second and final Liberal leadership debate. It's over. It happened last night. And just like the French language debate from the previous night, threats from south of the border were the main focus.
So when he says, I'm going to put 25% tariffs on every export from Canada, keep in mind that almost 50% of it is energy. 50% almost is energy. He's not going to tax that at all.
We can't change Donald Trump, but we can control our economic destiny.
So Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, Karina Gould, and Frank Bayless all sharing their plan of how to deal with threats of punishing tariffs and annexation threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. Freeland, the former finance minister, and Carney, the former Bank of Canada governor, both argued their best position to lead the party given their financial and international experience. While former member of parliament Frank Bayless flexed his experience in the business world, saying he'd take money Canada is planning to spend on border security and put it into beefing up Canada's defense. Gould also pledged on the ongoing affordability crisis for young people in Canada.
Now, Pierre Poilievre, he actually agrees with Trump. They both say that Canada is broken. We know that's not true.
This was an easy debate. This is a debate amongst friends, amongst family, amongst Liberals. The real debate against Pierre Poilievre, against Yves-François Blanchet, against Jagmeet Singh, that's going to come in the election.
Another person who was obviously not in the room in Montreal, but was a major topic of conversation, was Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. The candidates trying to associate him with U.S. President Donald Trump. They also tried to distance themselves from outgoing Liberal leader Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Liberals choose their new leader on March 9th. The official advising the White House on trade is denying a report saying he wants to push Canada out of the so-called Five Eyes intelligence network.
That was just crazy stuff. We would never, ever jeopardize our national security, ever, with allies like Canada.
Why would a trade advisor making a proposal on intelligence sharing? According to the report from the Financial Times, Peter Navarro wants to push Canada out of the Five Eyes to ramp up pressure on our country. Five Eyes is an intelligence sharing network which also includes the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Even as Navarro denies the report, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says Ottawa is looking to deepen intelligence sharing with its partners in Europe. While dealing with 4 years of the Trump administration, that was one of the reasons Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey gave for his decision to resign.
We're looking at 4 years of erratic, crazy, bonkers behavior by the President of the United States. So if I thought that the tariff thing was going to be solved in days, and maybe that would have changed things.
It was a surprise announcement, and Fury has served almost 5 years in office. He says he can't commit to another full term with an election scheduled for later this year. Fury plans to return to his career as an orthopedic surgeon. He's the second Atlantic premier to resign after Dennis King last week in PEI. Well, a man has been charged with impaired driving after allegedly driving a car into a hole on the Gardiner Expressway in Toronto. A construction worker says it could have been much worse.
If I was here earlier, like 5 minutes before, the car would be on top of the truck. And it'd probably be worse because I have gas in the truck, so it could be a big explosion here.
This all happened during yesterday's evening rush hour. Police say the car was going west on the highway, then drove through a construction fence on the other side of the road and ended up in the hole. The car ended up on its roof. Police say the driver was standing outside the car when officers arrived. No one else was inside at the time. Investigators are now working to track the car's movements just before the crash. An Australian couple is criticizing Qatar Airways after a woman's dead body was seated next to them during a long-haul flight.
So they looked a bit frustrated, and then they just looked at me and saw seats were available beside me. My wife was on the other side. We were in a row of 4 by ourselves, and they just said to me, "Can you move over, please?" And I just said yes, no problem. And then they placed the lady in the chair that I was in.
Mitchell Ring says the woman passed away partway through the 14-hour flight between Melbourne and Doha last week. The crew were unable to move her to another part of the plane, so they placed her blanket-draped body next to them, even though other seats were available and empty. Ring says he had to be seated with the body for hours and even after the plane landed. They're calling for different protocols to be put in place. In a statement, Qatar Airways said they're sorry for any inconvenience or distress this incident may have caused. A Southwest Airlines flight landed safely in Chicago after a close call with a business jet on the ground on Tuesday morning.
Tower Southwest 2504, how'd that happen?
Local reports in Chicago say the pilot of the private jet was warned 9 times to stop, but those instructions were not followed. The FAA and NTSB are now investigating. Amazingly, this wasn't the only aborted landing in the U.S. on Tuesday. Around 8:20 a.m., an American Airlines flight had to cancel its landing at Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington to avoid a plane that was ready to depart from the same runway. Experts say better funding is needed to improve airport traffic in the United States. Well, King Charles took a crack at pouring pints at a small brewery this week.
That's not bad, mate. There you go.
Tower Brewery is an independent, locally run brewery in Burton-upon-Trent. King Charles was on a tour with the owner when he got a chance to go behind the counter and try out the taps and the beer.